Thank you for tuning in. You're now listening to
Deliberately Woke.
We have a lot to talk about.
Let's get into it.
I wanted to talk about everything that's happening with these abortion cases across
Right.
this country, in Mississippi and Texas, and just for like a brief overview of what's going on. In Mississippi, in this particular case, in 2018, Mississippi banned abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy. And the lower court struck it down
Right.
in 2018. And now Mississippi is looking to uphold this law of 15-week
Right.
ban, and also is urging the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade
Right.
overall. And Supreme Court heard arguments on December 1st.
Right.
And there's a whole bunch of speculation on what's going to be happening with Roe v. Wade as a result of this case. And this decision won't be reached until June of 2022.
Right. And they feel emboldened now because of the law that passed in Texas.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And right, the Supreme Court also in Texas just upheld that Texas is allowed to keep
Right.
this 6-week abortion ban in place. The only thing that is different with Texas is that they're allowing these abortion clinics to sue certain elected officials so that, meaning that certain officials are going to be blocked from enforcing the ban, but it doesn't stop
Right.
private citizens from enforcing this ban, because that's what this ban
Right.
is about. Any private citizen can go and say, hey, so-and-so, I know
It's
they got
like,
an
yeah.
abortion and now I'm going to sue them. And also anybody who's involved in aiding this person, knowing or unknowing, like the Uber
Even
driver.
taking them
Yeah.
to the
Right. So the Uber driver can be sued even though they have no business asking you what you're doing,
Right.
where you're going.
Or have no, unless they saw your medical records, they wouldn't know if you're going to a clinic for an annual checkup,
Right.
or if you just need, if you're just going for a checkup or whatever,
Absolutely.
and it's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, like a community watchdog kind of thing.
Right.
Like it's very weird.
It's very crazy. And again, we've spoken about this before, but like going to a clinic that happens to perform abortions doesn't mean you're going there to have
Right.
an abortion.
Exactly.
Like you could be going to Planned Parenthood for your annual checkup.
Right.
It has nothing to do
Or
with
to
that.
just get tested or
yeah,
something.
or tested or whatever. Speak to your doctor and handle your business
Right.
privately.
Exactly. Exactly. I think it's, it's an interesting topic that it's kind of sad in 2021 we're talking about this because, as I've mentioned to you, the narrative part of it is really like what sticks with me, or something that I like to talk about because, I just don't like the argument, like the religious beliefs aspect, because I do believe like you should have your religious beliefs, obviously, but I don't think that your religious beliefs should influence laws and make something like inaccessible or illegal because you personally don't believe in something. I think you should have access because it's about health care.
Absolutely.
It's not about, like I was saying to you, like, a baby's a blessing. And yeah, that's all great and well. And if you're religious and
some
all that,
people.
but that doesn't change the fact that pregnancy is dangerous for women, and there is a healthcare aspect to it. And abortion is also needed in some cases if the mother's life is in danger,
Right.
or they can do tests if the child is gonna have is like gonna have challenges as well. Like that it's used as a mechanism, like a medical mechanism to help those situations too. And like it's just absolute, like it's we want to make it illegal because you're a woman and you should have a kid
No.
and it's a blessing, and all these narratives I
Yeah.
think are ridiculous and should be challenged.
I agree. And I think it comes from this whole idea of women, like this ownership of women and not allowing people to have autonomy over their body and
Right.
controlling reproduction, which, is part of this bigger scheme for the government to control other aspects of your life, and is leading us to this authoritarian form of government.
Right. Well, and maintaining gender roles, right? Because
that
the
too.
burden, like their narrative is the burden of being a woman
Absolutely.
and motherhood, and like completely there's like no ownership or no responsibility to the people who fathered these children. It's all on the woman, right? And it's like, and I find it wild that in a country that's so into like individual rights and the citizens' rights, that a fetus has more rights than the actual citizen that's a person and is like a part of society.
Well, again, it's like these religious beliefs and people really believing and enforcing this idea that women are just vessels. Like this Republican congressman from North Carolina called women earthen vessels. Like our jobs, women's jobs, is just to become pregnant and just to be a home for a fetus to turn into a child. And but then when that child is born, they're nobody again. Exactly. Like they're not anybody that these people are going to care for. Like with all of these religious sentiments of, oh, let the child live. They're not the ones that are enforcing or care about any sort of social programs, welfare systems for people. When this child is born, are you going to provide health care? Are you going to ensure that they have a proper education, have food? Parents that care for them. I mean, a system that cares for them. No, it's not about that. It is simply about control.
Right. And that's why they're not, like I always say, they're not, they have coined the term pro-life. And the other side hasn't really attack that narrative because exactly what you're saying. They're not pro-life. It's an anti-choice narrative, but also like an anti-woman narrative because it's about controlling, as you're saying. It's about deeming, it's about power for them. And they use whatever issue to get, to sensationalize it and to get you all emotional. And they use the super ultra religious folks to like push this narrative when, 73% or more of the country believes that abortion should be legal. Right. Not that they would get one, but that abortion should be legal or women should have access to it.
And 60% of the country believes that Roe V Wade should be upheld. Right. So that's the majority.
Right. But then you have the Republican Party now. This is their agenda since they got Trump into office and all their, crazy ultra-right judges that they've put in there. Like are not the majority. They're not the majority of the country, but this whole pro-life narrative they're only using that to benefit their power grabbing. Like you said, they don't care about social services. They don't care about housing. They don't even want to give women parental leave or you know what I mean? They don't even want to give, they want you to have a kid on Friday and go back to the office on Monday and talk about we're pro-life and pro-family. Yeah. And they're not.
I agree with you. And I also feel like they're not truly like religious or like spiritual people either.
Because it's used as the vessel.
Because if you really cared about that, then we would really be, pro-life people would be pro-welfare services.
Right. Also, it's like, okay, if you want abortion to be illegal, right? Then in my mind, the logical thing is so that people don't need abortions, make birth control readily available for everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like free or something like that. Like I feel like there has to be a middle ground because they don't want you to have birth control and they don't want you to have abortion. So it's like they're forcing you to have children. And what does that do for society when people are having children that are unwanted? And sometimes it's a financial reason that they can't have kids or they don't have the resources to have a child. So we're adding more strain to society.
Yeah. And all that being said, it's like, okay, your religious beliefs are your own. Back to your point. If you don't believe in abortion, that's fine. Like if you think it's evil, you would never abort your child and you don't understand it and life starts at conception, great. But there are a ton of other people in this country who don't have the same religious views as you, and it's not their prerogative. Why are your views, so important? Why do they supersede and then allow you to infringe on other people's rights?
Because it's about power.
Yeah, but this is about like the access to being able to have an abortion if you choose to have an abortion.
Right.
And without it being legal, it's still going to happen, but people need to be able to legally have access to it because regardless, abortions are going to continue to happen.
Right. They
just
won't have
since the beginning of time.
Right.
Like people taking whatever roots and leaves and that are going to cause them to have an abortion, or even worse, like these back alley hanger abortions, which are just, who wants to go through this? And also, most people, I don't think that anybody is like waking up like, yes, this is the perfect day to have an abortion. This is a very private, serious decision that people with uteruses are making for themselves and should be allowed to make for themselves with their doctor. It has nothing to do with anyone else.
Right.
And then these are also like the right, they're always talking about how they don't want government to be involved in blah, blah, blah. Let's try to ban sugary drinks or like regulate food
Right.
and make it healthy for people. I don't want the government to tell you. People won't even wear a fucking mask for COVID.
Right. But
right?
they're pro-life.
But then they want to tell some random person they have no idea who. No, you better have this baby, regardless of
Right.
circumstance, regardless if my body can handle it, regardless if I have the financial means to do
It's
this.
about power.
Right. And they're like, this whole argument of like rape. And for some people, that's still not like
Or
good
incest.
enough. Rape, incest is still not good enough. You should still carry this
Or
child.
the woman would die.
Yeah, that's what it is. Well,
Like-
I mean, that's God's will.
That's right.
I mean, it's
Save the
insane.
baby.
Yeah, save the baby so then we can fuck this baby and put them in the foster care system, which is fucked up, which none of these people like generally are advocates for fixing these types of things.
Right.
Again, we're focused on abortion right now in 2021 and 2022
Right.
when we are still in the throes of a global pandemic.
Right.
And realizing that there's a lot of fucked up shit that's happening in this country beyond what somebody's doing with their doctor.
Right. But they're also the pro-lifers that don't want to wear masks, right?
Yeah.
These people that don't want to, it's a hoax, right? I don't want to get vaccinated, right? Keep your body off of me with
Yeah.
vaccinations, but
Yeah.
you want a woman
You
to
can't-
have a baby,
Yeah.
right? That you can take
Yeah.
over, right?
Yeah.
That, there's no,
Yeah, but you're not going to enforce
No
this,
autonomy.
which is actually like for
Right.
the greater good, a totally different topic with vaccinations and also.
But
I
I'm
feel-
saying it's connected. To
It
the
is-
sense,
it is
like
connected. The
They
idea-
go to these capitals and they're having protests about it's my body and if I don't want to get vaccinated. But these are the same people
That will be
are
at another rally.
that are pro-lifers and
Yeah.
telling the woman that she has to have the baby that she doesn't want and that she has no autonomy over her over her body to carry a child 9 months. This is not like a vaccine where you get it and like in 2 days you're feeling better. You're telling someone that they should carry a baby for
Over
9
9
months
months.
and go through childbirth because you don't agree with abortion.
I mean, it's wild. Even people who have like the most pleasant pregnancies, who are
Right.
fine after recovering, it's still
It's a lot.
a huge thing to go through. I mean, physically, look at what's happening. This is wild. A human being is growing inside of another human being. Like, and if they are unable to do it or don't want to do
Right.
it, don't have the means, why are they being forced to do this? Why is it anyone else's business?
Right.
This whole idea of like this morality that they want to like enforce only at certain times
Right.
because
when it's convenient,
Well,
when
yeah.
it's for the power grab. That's it.
absolutely, because I don't see this type of response when it comes to regulating guns, food,
No.
vaccines, any of
The
these
government
things
is no,
that really
has no
harm
business
people.
there, but in bedrooms and in uterus,
Yeah.
that's
That's
where
where-
the government should be
it's so
placing.
crazy. It's really just
Right.
so perverse.
And that's why I'm saying like the narrative is important. And I think that the Democrats suck at it too, and they talk about it's a woman's right, but not talking about how the other side contradicts itself. Like we are
Constantly.
we're talking about abortion, and they're pro-lifers and the sanctity of life. In the same breath, these are people that are anti-vaxxers, that are like it's a hoax. Like I told
No,
you,
you
like
can't
the
even-
charts, right? That they have. People die more from heart disease and cancer than COVID. So then what's the argument here? So
Yeah.
we shouldn't do anything for COVID because people
Yeah,
are dying
just-
from heart disease, but COVID
Yeah.
is a fucking airborne, contagious fucking virus. And like that's where like the Democrats are not saying that, and you should just call them out on their bullshit because it's about a power grab. It has nothing to do with abortion at all. It's about power and about what they deem and they feel like it keeps, people who bear children, it keeps them, it keeps them
In a
kind of
certain
like
place.
in certain places, and also the other obstacles. You know what I mean? Like with a lot of topics, they just hop on. It's the same thing with like all these anti-trans bills that are going on now. They did it for, gay marriage and it passed, right? And they were pissed. And now who's the target in the LGBTQ community? It's trans youth. Oh, they can't go to this bathroom or this, or it's child abuse if you decide. They act like you can go to the doctor
And just get hormones right away. Just inject me now.
I want to change my gender. Like, you know what? Let's do it. And then the doctor's like, here you go.
Yeah.
Like that there's not a process or there's no scientific like method to this.
Also, you gotta have money and insurance to do this shit
Right,
too. Which
exactly.
is another topic. Most
Right.
a lot of people don't have access to this.
But they make it because, again, as I was telling you, like they like to sensationalize things, but the fear factor when you don't understand or
Yeah.
something is not a simple like a simple answer, it's like complicated.
Yeah.
And that's why they're attacking these groups of people. And it's complicated because, like you're saying, abortion is complicated because it's a traumatic experience, but it's a private experience.
Yeah.
No one has
Well, it can be traumatic for some people. It's, whatever.
right, but I'm saying
again,
like to make the decision and
Yeah.
and then
It's
dealing
not
with the
easy.
societal like response to it, right? It's
Yeah.
like people, it's a taboo, right? If you like I said, there are people that I know that have had a lot of them, and like people judge them, but to me, it's not my business. Like I'm not raising your kid.
Yeah.
I'm not helping.
I'm
So
not
like if you don't
sending you
want
money
it,
or food or
like-
providing any sort of childcare services, any of
right.
that.
And to me, the Republicans talk about like, small government and all these things, but like it's only convenient small government. It's like with guns and with bullshit like
Yeah.
that it's small government. But then with who's in your bedroom, what you do with your uterus, the government has to be all in on that and like make things illegal and like ban stuff. And it's like that's what like the hypocrisy of their platform, and that their platform is to disenfranchise people and to gain control and to keep a super, like they have like a super minority, right? They have a minority way of thinking that they want to make the majority in law, and that's what we're seeing with these abortion cases.
Absolutely. And they target groups of people that are different
Right.
or not in the mainstream to then, coalesce and get all
Right.
their supporters, or even people who don't see themselves on the right. Maybe something resonates because they're afraid of this group of people, or
Right.
like the idea that, I feel like conservatism is like preserving like old ideas and not really, expanding your mind or being open to different ideas and different kinds of people, different
and not
ways
challenging
of
the
life.
status quo.
Well, yeah,
which the
because-
status quo excluded so many people and was like
Yeah,
focused
even-
on like rich white guys was
Yeah.
the status quo, and like do everything to please them and make them get more wealth and
Mm-hmm.
resources.
The majority of these people aren't the status quo, though, who fall into
Right.
this type of thought and then like fall victim to what they're saying and then become anti-choice, even though they don't know anybody who's had an abortion or they're not going to get one. It's still like they want to rally against this
Right.
cause because it's something they can stand by, something that's simple that I think they can understand. And they are masters at messaging and getting
Right,
people
but simple
to,
messaging, which
Yeah.
nowadays that's problematic. It's
Oh,
the same thing with
I
like
agree.
COVID, right? Or like climate change. These are complex issues, right? And people like right now, the government trying to get people vaccinated, right? And people like, oh, well, it's still around and there's different variants that the vaccine, yeah, because a virus is meant to survive. So it keeps
Yeah, that's
mutating.
subjective.
It keeps mutating to survive. And as we've talked about before, like the like anti-knowledge of this country is so severe now
Yeah.
that the basic idea of or a definition of a vaccine is foreign to these people. I mean, a virus is foreign to these people, that we're starting like at ground zero.
Yeah.
Like
It's very
this is
hard.
a virus,
Yeah.
and this is what a virus does.
And this is the basics
Like,
of a vaccine
right.
and how it works, but like really basic,
Like-
high school.
And that's also
Science,
a right wing thing since the 60s, like this, like making the public stupid and dumb it down to like its simplest like terms, but not every topic is so simple. It's the same thing as
not.
like talking about racism and white supremacy. These are not issues that we can talk about in a tweet.
Yeah, and
These
it'd be
are
over.
complex, and there's just so much going on, and like that's why these people, like you were saying, are resistant to this, because they just want a simple answer. They don't want to think, or oh my god, this is crazy. And that's why, like I said, like trans people are targeted because it's a complex issue that it's not going to be answered in a tweet.
No.
It's not like a cookie cutter. Each case is different, and like it's something that people we're still learning about scientifically. But like those challenges, it's like it's really hard to like be bipartisan now, or to see any legitimacy in these people's arguments, and then you just have lunatics in the Supreme Court that are just like, I mean, we're talking about like burden of women in 2021, like we're in freaking the Middle Ages.
Well, I mean, and I just want to point out we're at a specific time where people like we have access to watching these hearings
Right.
take place. And
I mean, who watches them though? I didn't.
I didn't watch these in particular, but generally speaking, like I feel like it has been the government subjective and people who work in NGOs and foundations to kind of placate the masses and not like this whole education. Like I've been in rooms where people are like, oh, do we really need to, like, education about the courts is like seen as politicizing the courts. And they don't want people to be involved or to really know what's going on. Like I've been in conversation where it's like, people don't need to know all of the justices. Yes, the fuck, they should.
They definitely
and they
should.
really should know the judges that are in their local counties and districts. Like that makes sense to even know how this works. Like, and then we have these people making decisions, overturning, quite possibly going to overturn Roe v. Wade, and people don't even know how the hell these people got to these positions. For life. They're going to be in these seats making decisions for generations of people. And then it's not so easily struck down, decisions that are made. Like, you have to go back. Look at Roe v. Wade, passed in 73. Then it was revisited in 92. Now, 20 years later, we're doing the same. Or 30 years later. 30 years later, we're doing the same. I know. We're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like,
But that's also like, could be another topic in itself, because the idea of democracy and civic engagement in this country is so different than other countries. It's kind of like there's no interest in like being a part of it or understanding civics of it all, whereas other democracies, like the participation aspect is an essential part of democracy. But in this country, it's like a burden. You should participate, or you're kind of praised for participating. But democracy is based on what the people want. So there is no, it's not an option really in democracy to participate. You should, in a vibrant democracy, you need to participate.
Well, there are places where you get fined, right, for not voting and not participating, not knowing.
Places in Latin America, you get fined if you don't vote. And like that's the whole point, because in a democracy, that's the fucking basis of it. Is
like we need
civic
everybody's
engagement and participation. And in this country, it's seen as like a burden. We don't even get a day off. We're the only Western democracy that doesn't have election day is on a Sunday in most countries, or you get the day off. Here, it's like 2 hours. And if your boss allows you.
If you're working at a progressive place, that's where they're like, oh yeah, go vote. Yeah, it's important. Most places are gonna be, what the fuck?
Right.
Do this later when you're done with work. And then people who have those types of jobs, are they really like looking to go vote after? I mean, some people, yes, of course, and I wish it was more folks, but I think we are made to be ignorant to this.
Right, that's what I'm saying. That's why this democracy is very interesting, and that's why like issues like this, like what you were saying about the courts, like, oh, people don't need to know. People do need to know. That needs to be like some kind of like free channel where people just learn about this, how this government works.
It's like you not voting for the person that gets elected.
Right.
You don't realize that person is then able to appoint somebody to go make decisions about the law and how this country is run. And they're also simultaneously passing bills and working.
Right. And people are so removed, right? Because of the trauma. I mean, like, I feel like this country's, like, democracy downfall, I mean, definitely started with Ronald Reagan and his, like, Reaganomics stuff. But, like, the impact on the U.S. was definitely during the Bush era with, like, the lies about Iraq and, like, all, like, Halliburton making so much money. But the disenfranchisement is so dangerous now. And people are like, oh, I don't care, right? A lot of people you ask that don't vote, oh, what does it matter?
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, it trickles down and impacts your community. Like, it trickles down, and you're seeing it now. Like, people that, oh, it's another justice, like, that didn't care about Barrett or Kavanaugh, or whatever. This is how it impacts now. And that's what the Republican Party knows. They know people are distracted. Everyone's disenfranchised. Oh, who cares? I'd rather just, do my Instagram and do this.
Whatever.
But then this is when it impacts us. Because if this is overturned, it's going to affect communities with people that look like us mostly, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the part where, like, the Democrats don't push that narrative with people. Like, it matters and we get it. It's annoying and monotonous and, like, it's so, like, really, bureaucratic. But you need to be engaged, you need to be engaged. And they need to also, like, the problem with the Democrats, they'll get people's backing, right, with 2020 and, like, oh, God, democracy. And then they do shit that people are like, fuck it. Like, why the fuck did I get engaged and do all this shit? Because they do the same fucking shit over.
Yeah, and they haven't learned. They won't learn, no matter how many, coalition calls and blah, 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 and who, actually turned out for you to win this. They don't give a shit.
Right. or also like the narratives with the abortion. Like, why are the Democrats not getting women who've experienced this because of health reasons, or explain, like, get someone's personal experience for like that decision making, and how, like what you're saying, the right makes it like women are like, oh yeah, tonight
I'm
is
getting
it.
this abortion.
Yeah,
It's
we're gonna
be
go. We're gonna have
fun.
an abortion party.
Yeah.
Like, it's really not this. So like, I feel like to counter those narratives, like, talk to people that have done this, and just the psychological, you know, like how psychological it is, and like just the decision making.
Yeah, to have empathy
And also
for people,
but also the
too.
medical reasons for
Yeah.
it, because it is a medical remedy that some people
Need.
You know what I mean? So I just think,
I feel like the Democrats are really bad at helping people to connect dots. But again, we are like, what dot to connect where?
well, because
Well,
but
we
they don't
we're
tell
not
the
at
narratives
same,
properly, though.
we're
They
not
could
even
connect
at the
it.
same
They could
starting
connect the
point.
dots, though.
I agree, but they don't care. Their objective is just to stay in power,
Right.
unfortunately, and just be like, oh yeah, this is really bad. What's going on? What should we do?
Right.
It's
I
like-
mean, I just think there could be better narrative, and I feel like the only way we'll change topics like this and other topics is through the narrative. And like you said, that the Republicans are great at narrative,
Narrative
and marketing it,
Yeah.
and making it simple, because their people want something that's tweetable. Then they do it, and then they just keep pushing the same narrative, and
Yeah.
then people believe it. But the Democrats just sit back and like, oh, and like it just, we need to work
Yeah.
more on the narrative part
Really,
of it.
yeah, because we need a lot of education on this, and like, and again, how laws work, and this idea, like, if it's not legal, then that means that nobody has access to it. Like, people are, this whole argument of just make the decision with your doctor. We don't need to have a law about abortion is fucked up. We do need to have
Right,
a
we
law
do.
keeping it in
Definitely.
place, and then it needs to be a national precedent,
Right.
a national law. Otherwise, people
Right.
are just, like we said earlier, going to be performing abortions in some way that's unsafe.
Right. As
And-
we're seeing now, right?
Yeah.
It's like technically it's not even a law, right? It's like there was a case that was made, and they set precedent where abortion was legal throughout the country. And it really isn't. It's a woman's right to choose that
Yeah.
it's legal, that it's with her doctor, right?
Yeah, and it's up
and you
to-
see what states are doing, right? There are states that have super strict laws. That's why a federal, like a fucking congressional
Yeah.
bill should
Is-
be passed, where
yeah.
like no state, no matter, this should have access. Even the
Absolutely.
most restricted states, there should be access to this.
Agreed.
And that's the issue. But it's also by messing with their narrative about that they're pro-lifers when they're not. It's just using as a
not.
tool for power. They are not pro-lifers. They don't give a shit about the baby. They don't give a shit about the person carrying the child.
Well, they obviously don't. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a law saying in Texas you can arrest this person
Right,
legal, for
exactly.
performing something like
Exactly.
this. And then in Mississippi, this is their last clinic that's left that
Right.
they're fighting for.
Right.
To keep it open. And then the way that they spoke about how this works, it's not really helping anything. This
No.
clinic is not going to be able to reopen its doors. And then people are going to be traveling to neighboring states, and it's going to burden those states.
Right.
I mean, like,
but that's what they like, chaos. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. These people are pro-life. They blow up abortion clinics and
then-
kill all these medical professionals, but they're pro-lifers, right? And they do it God's will, right? It's just ridiculous.
I guess the hope is that then, the burden that's going to place on these states, maybe some people, there'll be some uprising like, why are we the only ones doing abortion here? Maybe we should get rid of it. I don't think that will happen in a place like New York, but things are a toss-up as of now
I
with
mean,
what's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like so infuriating watching issues like this, like where there's so many other things, that we should be worrying about. And like, I always connect this to COVID, because it's like these people that are pro-lifers and the sanctity of, that's what they all talk about, the sanctity of life.
Well, they
And
don't
life,
give a fuck about
life at at conception, but they're the ones that are not wearing masks and having super spreader events, and like Trump, all the people from Barrett's fucking confirmation party. How many of Christie got COVID? How many people in that party got COVID,
yeah,
tested positive?
the Rose
And like,
Garden.
you're talking about the sanctity of life, and literally you're killing people because you don't want to wear masks, or, oh, my body, I don't want to be forced for vaccinations. But in the same breath, someone with a uterus doesn't have the right to say, hey, I want to carry this child to term or not.
Yeah.
Like, it's like blatantly contradictory, and we're not even, like, no one's talking about it. It's just like, oh, well, we have to respect people's religious beliefs. Like, bullshit.
No, it's anti-democratic, all
Right,
of this,
it's
because you're taking away
anti-democratic.
people's ability to choose something for themselves.
Right. That's no
For
one's business.
themselves.
Like, it's no one's business.
And also, it's anti-democratic when we just spoke about the statistics of 73% of people agreeing that abortion should be a woman's choice to do what you want, and 60% of people, the majority of people, saying that this, precedent should be upheld. Let's keep Roe v. Wade. This
Right.
should be in place. And then you have all these, judges saying, "Oh, we're not here for the interests of people," like, and popular opinion. And it's like, so, well, why the fuck are you there?
Right.
I understand that I understand the argument that the law can't just waver with, any sort of public center,
Yeah.
but also generations and people are changing. Time is
Yeah.
changing. And yes, you should reflect what the fuck the people
Right.
are doing if this is a real democracy.
Right. And also, like, laws should change
I
because
agree.
laws
This is a
were
whole bunch
created
of-
by fucking people that owned people.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
So let's,
Yeah.
let's,
Yeah.
that's also that
Again.
American exceptionalism bullshit about, oh, the Constitution is
No,
as
no,
it,
no, no.
and I'm I'm just a constitutionalist.
No,
They need to change.
I agree, and these are people who want to be the only ones who know
Right.
how to interpret law. That know that you have to interpret law in the first fucking
Right.
place. That it's not just straightforward, which is bullshit. But they're the ones who want to keep playing this game,
Right.
and that's the sentiment I feel from mad white liberals that are in these spaces trying to make change. They're literally just keeping this game going.
Right.
They're always wondering, well, how do we
Well,
get
it's an
this?
exercise for them.
Yeah, it's a
They,
game because they really don't have anything to lose.
Right.
Because, again, these people, just like the people on the right who really want an abortion, if it's illegal, are going to be able to have a
Right, and they
safe one
have.
with a doctor, pay a doctor.
And
to
rich
do-
people, too,
And-
they've
and-
always had
yeah,
abortions. They do everything
Absolutely.
in private.
You think so-and-so's mistress is really going to carry that baby? Yeah,
Right.
right.
Exactly.
I'm paying for an abortion. You're going. A forced abortion. So it's not even her choice in
Right.
that
Exactly.
instance. Like,
Right.
I don't know, but this is just not good for this country, for democracy.
No. It's just crazy, like I said, in 2020 with a global pandemic, with
This
like
is
there's
the
so
focus.
many, and climate change, where like we have,
We'll never get to
but
that.
like I'm saying we're
It's
we're
fake.
overpopulated. Like there's so many,
Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's cold. This is life.
but like there's so much like rationale there to have abortion access to a safe abortion makes sense. And it's just like I just feel like the other side too is like missing the opportunity to talk about this in a way that I feel like the argument is dumbed down to just keep it on religious basis.
Yeah.
I feel like this argument is so much more complex, this issue, than just someone's religious beliefs. And when you take that out of it, right? When you take someone's religious belief that they believe that, life starts at conception. What is the argument then? If you take your religious beliefs out of it, which it should be, because we're supposed to be
Right.
separation of church and state, I thought, right?
Yeah.
If you take that religious belief out of the equation, then what's your argument for not having legal abortions? What's your argument?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of this is in the framing too, because then people start to wonder, do I have the right to kill a baby? Like, again, it's the narrative.
That's
like
so
I've
ridiculous.
heard even women making this or trying to figure out, is this right? And again, if you have this conundrum,
But that's fine, though.
don't. Yeah, it is
Exactly,
fine.
that's
It's totally fine.
But that
And
doesn't mean it should be illegal.
no, at all. It shouldn't be illegal, especially not for other people.
Right.
If this is your situation, that's
Right.
the whole point.
Right.
Is that it's your decision to make in
Yeah.
that instance that this is happening to you.
Right.
If you feel like I can't, it's a baby to you. You can't, you need to have this baby, whatever. It's a
But that's, I
blessing.
think, the
However,
brainwashing of
Yeah.
children, too. Like, what children mean in this country are so sacred here. Because it's like...
but what happens when the kid
But
is
I'm
a
saying
person?
like the connection to like womanhood and being like getting pregnant and stuff. That's what I mean. Like that brainwashing. Like I was telling you, like it's a blessing, or it's like you automatically get pregnant and there's an instinct like, oh my god, I gotta protect this, and this is like all these
It doesn't
things.
happen for everybody.
Right.
And again,
But that's the narrative
if
they
it's-
push. Is
yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're totally
That's the
right.
narrative they push, and that's why people are like, do I have the right? And my answer is you do. If you don't want to, that's fine. It's the same thing people who are anti like gay marriage, right? That's fine. Don't marry a gay person.
Yeah.
That's it. That's
Don't-
it.
Like
There you go.
Yeah,
Doesn't
nobody's
affect your
forcing
life.
anybody to do anything.
That's what I tell people when that was when
It's
marriage
wild.
equality was
Don't
in
get
like
gay
people
married.
are like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this, if this is right or wrong.
Why do you have to feel a way about what other people are doing?
And I would tell people,
that doesn't affect anyone else.
Exactly. Don't marry a gay person. There you go. That has nothing to do with you.
It's wild that like this could be like on the same level of if we decide if it's wrong to like, punch somebody in the face when somebody's clearly being harmed.
Right.
If you have no interest in this, don't participate in it. It's not harming you either way.
Right.
It's just this. It goes back to that idea again of like the right to infringe on other people's rights. Right. Basically, is what this is
because
about.
I don't believe or support or agree with what you do or your lifestyle. That's what it's about.
But it has nothing to do with you. Your lifestyle. Yeah, I know. I love these.
No,
arguments.
but that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole thing.
Right.
And they talk about like like everyone's argument is about like my religious beliefs. The same thing with marriage equality. My religious belief, I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman and the sanctity of marriage. And they're like, actually, marriage is a legal mechanism.
Yeah, I know.
To share assets and to do stuff. Like it's not like fucking Jesus is signing your fucking marriage certificate.
Yeah,
it's a fucking
you have to go to the
administrative.
You gotta go to City Hall
right.
to get
It's
this
an
done.
administrative thing, right? You get married in a church as as a symbolic thing, but you need a marriage license from the city. Right. And that's the whole, like, that's what I'm saying. Like these arguments about, I don't believe, that's fine. Then don't participate in it. If you feel abortion is wrong and bad, that's fine. Don't participate. But that doesn't mean that your beliefs should make it illegal to other people who want access to it
other
or need
people's
it.
Right.
But this country is like religious people in this country are protected in a weird way that I don't think they should be protected.
No, I agree. And it's obvious it is a certain type of religious person, too. We're talking about white Christians in this country.
That's right.
Because,
Because they wanted to put a mosque by the 9/11. They were like, oh my God.
This is insensitive.
This is this is sacrilegious. Like, what the fuck? What happened to this land of the free, right? And freedom of religion, right? Only for, evangelicals and not really all Christians, really. Like that evangelical, Pentecostal, those Christian fanatics. Because even like, this country's not too favorable to Catholics either that much.
No. Every second Catholic in office now. What do you have to say to that?
I know, right? Progress.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's another absurdity. That was something that was like,
an issue. Like, who the hell cares?
I mean, when Kennedy was elected, it was like, oh my God, is he going to be beholden to the Constitution or the Pope? It's like, what are you fucking an idiot?
Right. And all of them do the same thing. I believe that marriage is between a man and a woman, and you shouldn't abort children. Right. No matter what, I believe in the sanctity of life, but we do need to execute this person.
Right. And we need to bomb this city in the Middle East.
And we need to take these things from these people and continue to destroy the earth. Let's make this pipeline.
Right.
We're not going to put
steal native land.
Yeah, we're not going to put any regulations on cars or emissions or anything because fuck these kids that have black lungs when they're 7 years old who live in the city. Like.
Or incarcerate the most people in the world, but we're pro-life.
Yeah,
we're
it's fine because they're living in there, so it's fine.
It's like the sanctity, but and also support the death penalty.
Yeah, that's the part when I was like, first started to have debates about abortion, pro-life, pro-choice. I was always like, wait a minute, how could you be for the death penalty
and a pro-lifer?
Choice? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make sense if you're equating, abortion with killing a baby. Which, again, this case set standard. We know that that's not what's going on in this case. Wild.
It's just like it's like so tiring and like exhausting to like. But again, that's part of their strategy too. It's meant to be like a mind fuck, and it's meant to be like there's not just like nothing matches up, and it's just like there's no correlation to anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about like, should we have a guest to talk about? I mean, like I cannot sit across from someone on the other side.
I think
of
that
this argument.
That would be an exercise, though. I would be open to that.
I am more so open to like talking to somebody who's like, yeah, I am, pro-life, but I understand that this has nothing to do with. But what is the argument for infringing on other people's lives?
But that's what I want. That's why I would be open to that exercise because my question is fine. Because I know their answer is going to be something religious, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm saying, okay, how can you be saying abortion is bad, but then be in favor of the death penalty, and be in favor of be in favor of the Second Amendment, right? Like these type of
Yeah.
things. How could you know what I mean? Or be in favor of increasing the budget of the police, like all these things
think
that
it doesn't
are
make sense.
harmful. Like that's what I want them to
I think-
walk me
yeah.
through that
Or
logic.
you should be anti-war, but these are the
Right.
same people who will pose with the gun by a flag and hold a Bible and be
Right.
like, "Let's invade this
Right.
country and
Let's
do
blow them up."
Fuck them because they're heathens and it's all right. And that goes straight back to white supremacy. That whole idea that we're like, people are the saviors of other people and that it's their religious
Right.
duty
Right.
to
That's true.
civilize other groups of people who don't have the same
Right.
exact views as them, because that's why we're here to do this.
No,
It really
that's
is.
true. But I would love that exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about abortion because we're never going to get anywhere. But how do you rationalize that as bad? But then you are in favor of all these other things
Right. You should
that
be
are not in the sanctity of life,
Yeah,
like theory.
You should be a total pacifist. You should be like, what have we done to the earth? Let's be planting gardens and make sure everyone has fresh food and all the babies are taken care of and clean and
I mean, I know their
healthy.
argument will be. I know one of their arguments will be like, "Oh, you guys are just too purist. Like, I can't just be pro-choice and all these things. Like, I gotta be."
No,
And
but
it's
I'm
like,
sorry.
Yes, you do though. But
Yeah.
you do.
I'm sorry.
You
If
do.
if you are pro-life, you should not be for the death penalty.
No.
On a religious basis,
That
if you believe
technically
it, I
is
would have. Yeah, I would be more like, fine. You believe that, fine. But again, that has nothing to do with what I'm allowed to do
It's just crazy.
and what I'm going to do, regardless. Because again, people are going to back to abortion, going to have abortion.
Right.
It's going to happen.
I mean, they've been happening since
Yeah.
the beginning of time, and
It's
it's,
gonna
just
happen.
like what kind of society are you, and like what kind of like the also the argument of the U.S. being like this beacon of democracy and freedom fighter. Like, how could you be? Like the shaming aspect that the U.S. shames all these countries for how they treat women, how they treat gay
Oh,
people, and
please.
how they treat these marginalized and vulnerable populations. But look what we're doing here.
Yeah, it's
Look
not
what
better.
we still are not even calling what happened last January 6th a fucking coup attempt,
No,
right?
we can't be
and
honest
like,
here.
and- but then we're going like Biden going to fucking global international conferences talking about the U.S. and how we're this, and people are like Grandpa,
Yeah.
Grandpa. Have you been watching what's going on in your country the last 4 years? I think you guys need to go on a retreat.
But it's like the American way, though, to gloss over these huge problems.
But this time
And-
it's not working. Like,
Well, it's not- no.
internationally, it's just people are
well,
like, okay, guys.
the view
like,
of America has been
like,
cracked open. People are like, oh.
Europeans are like here with us. They're like, okay, we don't know what we're gonna do with you because we kind of need
I
you.
mean, I'm very interested to see what life turns into after COVID is like not the biggest
I mean,
thing.
it's just like the hegemony has changed, and the U.S. like in 4 years has just degraded to
Yeah.
something that I don't even know what, because we've all lived in
it's
this
been-
world
yeah.
as a superpower, what this means for the U.S. as our population gets dumber, less healthy, right? And you have
it
like
continues to grow as well.
right continues to grow, but then you have like this movement of like this anti-knowledge, like kind of like it's un-American to question things or to be intelligent or to like question, hey, this doesn't make sense. Like that hostility is just dangerous, and I don't know what it means, especially with the midterms, if the Republicans get the House, and then Trump allowing this man to run again.
No,
even of
yeah, no.
itself.
I mean, even talking about it like
Right.
he's viable and it's legit and it's
How
going
does
to
that
happen.
look for our democracy? Like, what kind of democracy are we when that's even a possibility? When he has how many investigations in how many states? I mean, it's just like this type of, it's a weird place, and it's these topics like abortion that you kind of see the fragility of the U.S. democracy and like the degradation of it. But also, I mean, I don't know how strong it really was to begin with, because it's
Well,
like was
no.
built for a certain type of people.
Yeah.
But like, what does the country, like, where will we go from here? Because it doesn't look like we want to be like reborn, right? In a way that we could like, I feel like the smart thing to do is to analyze and be like, you know what, we have done some fucked up shit here. Let's reanalyze and like
Yeah,
let's
but
amend the Constitution. And like it's like you were saying before, oh, it's like we're interpreting the law and the Constitution is sacred and all these things. But really, is it?
no.
Should we not question it? Because it was written a long time ago by people who owned people or didn't consider black people human beings, or
Yeah.
1/5 a person, right?
3/5.
3/5 of a
Less
person,
than that of cargo.
right? And then stole land from native folks. Their own wives were like, "You can't even fucking vote." Like, is it time to like just assess this and kind of like just assess the Constitution, change it?
It's been time, and this has been like the
No, I
degradation
know.
has been happening for years. Like there
I
have
know.
been attacks on all of our systems, like concentrated attacks.
But I think
to,
now
just to
has
get
been
to
the
this. Well,
most,
it's like,
like,
yeah, it's like everything coming to
blatant in your
boil.
face, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's coming to a head, and like I don't know what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
But I'm also, I have a very pessimistic mind about this because, yes, I do think that this is the time. I even think 2020 was like the year that things could have like popped open for real, and like we're really at this revolution point. But I see us coming back to trying to fit into this old way that's not working. Even with things like police reform, it's like even in New York, people with electing this guy could definitely have cold feet about defunding police.
He's
and
not
like,
going to.
No. I'm saying people's sentiment too.
Oh,
I think it is
right.
scary for some people. I think the
But
last
even
2
him
years,
as mayor
people are
and
just
stuff.
like, oh, I just want to go back. But back to what? If you really think about it, like we're not going back because
There's
things are
no
still
way.
rolling forward. Like it's like
There's
an
just no way.
avalanche,
Right. I mean, all that's
I'm-
missing is an economic collapse for
I know.
for the
I'm very-
for the government to just
Yeah.
completely fall.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's just like it's very interesting, and I think a lot not enough accountability to the right. I mean, the Democrats definitely have a responsibility here, and there's a lot of things they're at fault for. But I do think this right wing disenfranchisement and also like just delegitimizing so many systems and being anti-democratic. I mean, that's where they are right now. They're like where campaign ads are having other Congress people's heads and they're shooting guns and stuff. I mean, this is anarchy that we're living in, and that we're still pretending like there is like a bipartisanship that could happen here, or that's what they want, or they'll say, oh, the Democrats don't want to work with, like, that's not.
Bipartisanship. Again, I can't
We're
believe
just
we're
well
even still
past
talking
that.
about this shit now when most people people are not going to fall into just two categories.
No.
So it's over.
Yeah.
People don't care. You have educated people who don't care, who don't want to watch the news anymore, who don't want to be involved. Don't want to.
stopped for
I
a
know.
while.
Yeah, I don't want to know. I'm tired of it because it's the same thing.
Right. And
Or just
that's what they want.
even worse, like we're talking about glossing over like a pretending it's okay and shit's on fire. Like this is
Right.
not okay. It's not going to work. But I don't know. I have very little hope because
Right.
people just don't know enough, and it's like this willful ignorance to like
Right.
be like, I don't see it, so it's not happening, and let's just like not talk about it. When but we are talking about, people are talking about, it's not going to go away.
Right.
It never went away. I mean, it's still here. I just think this is like the end of the illness we're reaching. Like
Right.
it's just going to kill us eventually.
Right.
So
No, I agree.
I don't know, but we really could be talking about this for hours, and we probably will revisit this.
No, I
you
agree.
know.
I think we should definitely have experts to talk about, reproductive health,
Justice and
and
rights, yeah.
justice, and what that means and how it's intersectional, because there's a lot of other topics
Absolutely.
that fit into this. But I would love to explore that. But I also think like people should just question narratives that are pushed by the media and like what it really means to be pro-life, and if these people are really pro-life. I think that's that could push the needle, and just challenging those narratives, and also understanding that people should have, like, just because you believe something doesn't mean it should be illegal. You know what I mean? Like
I
things like
agree.
this. There's so many other topics that can fit into this, but I think that's something, moving forward, and challenge, even if you are a pro-lifer, challenging that and seeing like other things that should fit into pro-life that kind of contradict the pro-life narrative. But I agree.
Yeah, and also like what is this? mean in a democratic society? Like, your rights, do they deserve to, supersede other people's rights, or just not even your rights, because your rights are not being infringed upon, but again, your beliefs.
Right.
Like, so, yeah. Great conversation.
Yeah.
We'll be back to talk about this definitely in the new year, in 2022, especially as,
Definitely.
This Mississippi case goes back to Supreme Court in
There's a ruling.
June 2022. So we'll be back to talk about it, and hope for the best, but expect the worst.
Welcome to the USA.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.